Hello and welcome to FoosFit training. Today, we're just going to talk about the practice mode. I'm not going to go into a whole lot of like all the different ways you can use it. I just want to show you just how to set it up similar to the manual mode. The practice mode is a little bit more complex. There's a lot more variables. So it may take a little bit to go through, but it's still a lot of the concepts that apply for the manual mode apply for the practice as far as like your ranges and your positions. But there are a few nuances that we need to talk about to make sense. So the first thing we'll do is we're gonna select practice mode, okay? And then we're gonna go to the options window. Now, I'm not gonna talk about the system assisted setup, but just because I want you to walk through this without any help from the system. This was set up originally because before we had the lessons and we had an automatic way of loading them, it was cumbersome to set up a practice lesson. So we wanted to make it easy, and we created this little button, which kind of in the background was setting up some of your practice for you. But since we have the lessons now, the training lessons, it's not so imperative that you use this button. So for now, we're not going to go into too much detail. But just like with the manual mode, we talked about being able to pull up defenses, right? And in 90% of the cases, that's what you're going to do. You're going to pull up a lesson and you're going to pull it straight from the training lessons page and you're going to load it. And it's going to save you a lot of headache of trying to understand all this stuff. And the cool thing is then if you want to adjust those things later, then you can do them without having to walk through every step. But for the purposes of this video, I want to break down everything so you understand what exactly is going on. So the first thing is, sorry, I just dropped one of my little pieces here. But so the first thing is that I'm going to go ahead and select a practice lesson just so that way we can speed the process up, and I'll show you. So the push, pull, straight standard defense, right? So if I hit load, you see it moved them in and it loaded the practice defense there. You see that? Current active rod. So I'll hit it again just so you can see. Practice mode activated. Practice defense loaded 76. Now, I'm going to step over here and show you something real quick. It loaded the defense because it thinks that that's where the men need to be to implement the practice mode that we've set up. I have these FoosFit that should have came with your device. There's another type that actually bolts on. These are the snap-ons. And I'm just going to snap them on. I'm not going to use the little plastic clip that came with it to connect them because I'm not really shooting on them right now. But those are designed so that way when you're shooting, the man doesn't flip around. I'm going to snap these on here. The idea of the practice mode is to learn how to take a hole when it opens, right? It's not about recognizing patterns or anything like that. It's simply how fast and accurate is your shot, and how well are your reflexes to take a hole. So the whole purpose of the practice feature is to set up little practice routines. And as the men throw little fakes and open the hole, the question is, can you hit it, right? And you can make it super hard or super easy. If you're a beginner, you're obviously going to want to have the holes open up really wide and slow. If you're a pro and you're really trying to test your speed of your pull shot, when that rod opens really quick, can you hit it, right? And also, you can see where I have the men in the middle. The whole goal is to shut all the holes so that way there's nothing open, and it's very obvious that if the guy does this, it's telling you to shoot middle, right? And if it does this, it's saying shoot push side, right? So that's intention. Or if you're shooting a pull shot and it does that, it means shooting middle. So you can slide those over and make your middles a little bit bigger. And, there's a lot of variables, and that's where we'll talk about today. So The cool part is that if I was to do nothing right now, after I loaded that defense, like I showed you, I could literally do nothing and just hit the start. And you're going to see.
Get ready. Set.
As you see that, and you heard all that. Okay, you see that little fake it through? Oh, it opened it up. Boom. You see that? That's beginner mode. So what did it do there? When you hit the start, it always goes through a state processor. The first thing it does is goes through what's called a get ready state. It's just because if you have the sound turned off for some reason, you need some way to know what does it mean, what is it asking me to do. So what it does is it just moves from range to range, and it's basically saying get ready. And then it jumps into position, and you hear the word set. Once the word set is, now it's in what's called the fake state. Now it's going to throw little fakes here and there, depending on your settings. How many it throws is all based on, difficulty level. But it's going to throw little fakes. It might do like a little, and then it's going to go into what's called defense state. The defense state is the final state where it opens one of the holes, right? So if it's already pre-picked that it's going to open the middle at 8 seconds or whatever, it's you have your thing set up for, it's going to open it up and it's going to try to close it, and you got to hit it, right? And then it's going to go start back over into get ready state. It's going to, and then it's going to go fake state, defense state, and it's going to keep repeating that until you hit stop, right? And each time it does that, it's going to pick a random hole to open based on the criteria you set. And that's where the options window comes in. So we'll talk briefly about this. Now, all these lessons are defined in the training window. So whenever you hit them, like this pull straight standard or pull push straight reverse. So if you were to hit the reverse right here, let's just show you real quick so you see, now it goes into a reverse. And now the outer man here becomes the long block, and it's going to move it in to open it, right? Or it's going to move it like this to open that. So, so let's go back here real quick. So you can do the same thing in manual mode. You can load a system defense, and then you may want to tweak it, and then you can store a name and give it your own name, right? And that's how you do it. If you want to practice, like if you want to do a push kick or something, and we don't have something set up that you like, maybe you want to, you can take these off, and maybe you want to move the man like right here to block like the corner push kick, and maybe you want to set that somewhere else, right? So that's where it becomes custom for whatever you like, whatever you need. But if you turn fakes off, right? So if you say fakes, no fakes, it's just not going to do any fakes. So it's going to go into the fake state. It's just not going to throw any fakes, and it's going to keep throwing no fakes for 4 or 5 seconds or whatever your times are, and then it's going to throw the defense, right? Now, the number of fakes it throws or how aggressive the fakes are is controlled by your difficulty level. So you can see the difficulty level right here, 1 through 10. Anything over like 7 is going to throw maximum fakes. So it's going to be real aggressive. It's going to throw fakes on both rods back and forth. If you set it to like difficulty 1 or 3, you're going to notice that you're not going to get as many fakes. Now, sound. So you can just turn sound off. So it doesn't say, you won't hear it say get ready, set. It's just going to do some movements, and you'll have to kind of know what that means. Now, range and speed, static and dynamic. Well, whenever you set up your device, you see right here, we're in the 2 rod, and here's the range that's defined, right? In the gold there, right? You see that? So that means that's the full range. Well, if you tell it to be static, it's always going to say, whenever I open the hole for a defense, I want to go the full range and back and close it. If you set it to dynamic, it's going to be tougher because it may say, oh, only open half the range and close it, or only open 3/4 range and close it. And it's going to randomly choose that. So it makes it a little more difficult. So you can't expect the rod all the way to move all the way open every time. So it just adds to complexity, right? Same thing with the speed. If you set it to dynamic, it may, if you have your speed, and I'll give you an example, it always starts for what is set right here. So it's set at 50. If you say dynamic speed, it's going to multiply it by like maybe 10% and say sometimes open at 60 and close at 50, or open at 55 and close at 45 or whatever, right? It's gonna just randomly pick different speeds to open and close the hole, so it just makes it a little bit trickier to time. um, right now they're both set at static, which means when it opens it, it's always going to open it at the speed. Now just know that uh, your difficulty level is attached to your that stupid e-note. I need to fix that. Just know that your speed is always attached to your difficulty level. So if you set your speed to 50 and you set your difficulty 1, then it's going to be 50. But if it's at 50 and you set the difficulty to 5, then it's going to be something multiplied, right? Maybe it's 70, 90, I don't know, whatever the multiplication is. But if you set your speed at 83 and your difficulty level at 1, then it's 80, right? So everything's going to multiply itself from whatever your slider speed is. It's going to multiply it using the difficulty level. Now, here is where your shot clock. You're saying, okay, I want to practice shooting kind of quick today. So I want my shot clock to always be within 1,000, which is milliseconds, and 3,000, right? Boom. So 1 to 3,000. Now, different windows, like right here, you can see it's not showing you the whole thing. That's just an annoyance of, it just happens to be Google Chrome right now. If you're on an Android, it might show the whole screen there. But anyway, so you're saying I want my shot between 1 and 3 seconds. So the devices are always going to throw the defense between 1 and 3, right? Randomly. And the start delay just says how much time in between each cycle do I want to wait? Just give me a little time to reset, right? The average is 3 seconds. You may want to set it to 5 seconds, 1 second, whatever makes you happy. And then the goalie rods, 5-rod, all rods, that is just, right now we're on goalie rods, right? So if you were practicing on the 5-rod, you'd want to set it to 5-rod. Now, you see that? You see how it changed this down here? That's why it's important. So this right here is kind of the meat of how it works, and it can be a little bit tricky, but let me explain something to you. You have to remember this, okay? The rod, whenever it moves towards the device like this, that is called in. It's always in perspective to the device. Now, whenever you are on the app and you're working, you always want to stand opposite of the device, because everything on the app has been set up to assume that you're standing opposite devices. Basically, you're on the shooting side of the table, right? That just keeps the perspective correct. So in is in towards the device. Out is out. So if, let's just say you're in a standard defense, make sure this is really clear to you. You're in a standard, and I want the 2-rod to open the middle. I want it to open the middle when it throws the defense, right? Which way do I want the rod to move? I want it to go in, and it opens the middle. You see that? If I want it to open the straight or the push side, I want it to go out. You see that? Out. The goalie rod to open the long will go in. You see that? And he doesn't go out from this point, right? Because there's nowhere to go, right? So if you look here, the goalie rod is set up when it's in. Let's do a standard defense like we were before. Let's say load defense, right? Boom. Look at this. See that? He has set the goalie rod to only go in. It's saying wherever you are, see, you're in the 2-rod right now. Let's go into the goalie so we can make sure we're clear here. Open the options window. He's saying the direction I would like you to move the goalie rod right here is in the in position. I always want you to start. Look at this. He has the start position here. He says, I always want you to start. That's why this start position is important now. You see that? I want you to start in the furthest position to the side of the goal, which is where he's at now. You see that? You see where he's at? He's in the furthest position of its range. And he says, when you throw the defense, I want you to go in. And I want you to go to the full range all the way to here. So I want you to go all the way to here to open it, and I want you to close it. Boom. See that? So he's going to go full range in and out, and he's going to stop in and back, right? But let's take a look at the two rod. He's set to both. Let's go look at the two rod. The two rod is set up in the middle. He's saying, hey, I need you to start me in the middle of the range because I need to be able to go both ways. And I know I can only go to the end of the range here. You see that? The rod can never move outside of the range. Now, how did I get all these numbers set up? Trial and error. That's why we wanted to make it easy for people. And that's why we created the lesson. So you don't have to go through all this minutia, but I'm explaining it because you need to understand it. So the true rod is set up in the 130 position, wherever that's at. It just happens to be here. It's pretty close to the middle. And he is defined to go both. So the software says, hey, every time you are about to throw a defense, I need you to randomly pick whether you're going to go in or out on this one, right? Or you're going to show the middle or the straight in this case, right? If he goes in, he's going this way and he opens the middle. If he goes out, he goes that way, right? And he's only going to move from where he's at now, which is right where he's at now on the table in this black dot. And if he goes to here, he's going to go to here, right? And then he's going to go back to that position of 130, whatever that is, right? Whatever, I forgot what it was or whatever, but you got the point. Or he's going to move this way and go back to 130 or whatever, right? So that is how this works. And if you change it and you're on the 5 row, you see it unhighlights these things. You're saying, hey, look, you can't set these things now. See, if I push them, it doesn't do anything. It says, no. You told me you're on the 5 row. That way you only have control here. Now, what are these weights? Well, since you told it both, you're saying, okay, how much do we want to weight going in versus out? How much for the goalie rod? How much do we want to go in, right? Well, if you want to work, let's say, on your long pull side rollover, right? Which is, I want to work on that hole more than I want to work on this hole or this hole, right? Then you would set your weight for the in to be, say, it goes from 0 to 100. Right now, they're all set to 10, 10, 10, 10. That means I want to evenly open the holes between those 3 holes evenly, right? I want the software just to kind of randomly pick those 3 holes evenly. That doesn't mean it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It just means that it's going to try to pretty much over, say, 20 attempts to randomly pick them evenly. It doesn't mean it will be exact, okay? Doesn't mean it won't pull 2 pulls in a row and then 2 pushes and then maybe a middle and then another pull and then 2 middles, right? It's going to throw it like that. But if you put this one to like 50 and then these are 10 and 10, you're going to see that the goalie rod is going to be moved a whole lot more times over a series of 50 movements or 20 movements, right? And if that's what you want to practice and you want to really focus on that, but you still want to hit the other holes too, just to keep you honest, then you set your weights, right? Obviously, the system normally sets up 10, 10, 10, or you could set 1, 1, 1. Doesn't matter. What the actual number doesn't matter. It's only what the number is in relation to the other numbers, right? So if these are all 20s, that's the same as being all 10s. I hope that makes sense, right? If you're not a math guy, all the same number is equal. Now, these shot type, pull, standard, they don't really need to be set per se. It doesn't matter what they're set to. It only matters when you're using the system assisted setup, because if you click this and then you select pull, it assumes certain things. Like it assumes that the defense, when it's in a pull standard configuration, what that's going to look like it is right now, right? So it knows to set the goalie rod in and the 2 rod both, right? If you were to set it to reverse, then, and you hit system assisted setup, you see how it did. It knew that oh, these needs to change to out and blah blah blah. So that's what's happening there. But for our sake, just to keep things simple, I just put it back. So I hope that makes sense. Um, just know that you will need to move the little these little guys around to kind of fit what you're working on. If you want to work on a pull shot, setting your straight up. Like when I set up the pull shot defenses, I don't open the straight all the way, right? Because that's too easy for a pro. I just open it like that, boom, boom, right? But I may open the middle more, or I may only open the middle a little bit, or right, or super quick. It's like, So that's all part of your practice, right? I can tell you that uh, that is a difficult, very, very difficult thing to do because it's just not something. Let me explain something real quick. We talked about this on the manual mode about different ways to practice. When you're practicing on the practice mode, because you don't know what hole's opening, it's allowing you to not build up your body to hit a hole. It's training you to be ready to hit any hole at any time without any tell, without loading your body up. When you're in a real match, most people kind of already know what hole they're going to hit, right? And that's okay. It's not that it's a bad thing if you're not giving it away, or sometimes you give it away on purpose to play a head game with the other player, right? And then you look like you're going to go here, but you go there, whatever. But in practice at home, if you can make your body quiet and you can hit any hole with the same authority when you don't know it's coming, and you can smash a middle, smash a long without any tell, man, when you get in a match, you will be much more confident against that player. And you won't feel like you're giving something away because you're not. Because you practiced where you couldn't detect what hole was going to open from the FoosFit, right? Because you didn't know. And it's a weird feeling at first when you start practicing with it because all your life you practice against real people or non-moving rods. And you thought you had a quick shot. And then the FoosFit opens and closes and you're not even close to hitting it. You literally crumble. Your arm just falls off. Your brain explodes and you go, wow, it didn't even move that fast, right? So it's a great exercise to teach you. And it also, you can work on speed with it. How fast is your shot? Set up that FoosFit. You want to work on your long and see how fast it is? Just don't set anything else except the goalie rod and have it just open and close like that. And when it does, you shoot it. And if you score it 5 times in a row, then increase the speed, or increase the range to where it's only, or decrease the range where it's only opening halfway. See how accurate you are, right? You can really hone in on where your shot's at. If you can open the hole like a one ball width and close it, and you can score that, you're amazing, right? That means that you have a super quick reflex, shot speed, and accuracy to that hole. I can tell you most people can't do that. Um, does that mean that you don't have a good shot? No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that that's what you're trying to work on. You're trying to test, where am I at and where can I build from, right? And doing that helps you define your game and just what you need to work on. So that's the practice mode. Play around with it. Obviously, you kind of got to get used to it and the nuances of it. And I hope that helps. Good luck, and I'll see you on the next video.